Welcome back to another episode of Building the Pride, where I, tonight, am your host, Drew, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Mike. Mike, how are you?
I'm hanging in there after a very, very disappointing Saturday or Sunday. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. So, I endeavor to not let things like this bother me, but you know what? They bother me. So, we're
Yeah.
going to talk about what bothers me for a long time tonight. It's like therapy. So, please join us in this therapy
Yes.
session as we all bring some kind of catharsis to one another.
I'll say I think we all need a little therapy after that game.
Yes. So,
Do we want to start with any news and notes around the NFL about some other games that happened? Because after all, we do have the Minnesota Vikings at 2-0 leading the NFC North.
we certainly can. I wrote down many things that I wanted
right.
to talk about on news and notes around the NFL today.
Let's do it. Let's see what you got.
Well, you know how they say that Atlanta is a hub for like air traffic.
Yep.
So we're gonna that's the lead in. That's the segue.
Okay.
We're gonna talk about Atlanta. So
All right.
I watched half of the Atlanta Indianapolis. No.
Atlanta played Philly, right?
Yes, that's right, on Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
So I watched half of the Atlanta and Philly game. I don't think Kirk Cousins is all the way back from his Achilles.
He was back enough.
Well, if he is quote unquote all the way back, then it is like what happened when Peyton Manning went to the Broncos. Like he has just lost the ability, just like Peyton did and like Drew Brees did, where he cannot drive the ball down the field anymore.
Yeah.
And which is sad, because if that's true, like watching Drew Brees not be able to drive a pass down the field was sad, because that's what he was good at.
Yeah.
And Kirk Cousins has been known in his career as someone who will throw passes down the field to the outside of the numbers. And hang on one second. My sister is looking for my mom.
She doesn't know what time it is.
Well, my mom and I hang out before the show, and my mom left here an hour ago, and my sister doesn't know where she is.
Oh, gotcha.
So
hopefully everything's okay.
Yep. So that I might have to step away. Yeah. But Kirk Cousins does not look like he can push the ball to the places on the field that he used to push it, that made him so effective. And if the Falcons had any idea that this was the way that he was going to play, it makes the Michael Penix pick maybe a little bit more. Oh, okay. Like maybe they had reason to use the 8th overall pick on Penix. So, if that's the case, though, I don't know why you give Kurt $180 million.
Knowing the injury was there, right?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, staying in Atlanta, Bijan Robinson is the highest rated running back in the league through 2 games. Congratulations, Bijan. I quite like the way that he plays. Didn't think that he would be at the top of the league so far. But they have a really good offensive line in Atlanta, and he is still splitting time with Tyler Algier, so it's not like he's the whole show, right?
And when you say highest rated, what do you mean?
PFF.
He is for the year or for the week?
For the year.
Because for the year, he is 3rd. He's tied with David Montgomery with a 83.5 grade.
Well, something changed since 1:00 in the afternoon when I looked that stat up. So
James Cook is 86.3 at number 1 for rushing. Unless you happen to look at just like the week 2, which I have not looked at.
So the stat that I looked at was overall PFF grade, which had Bijan 1, James Cook at 2, and Montgomery at 3rd. At 1:00 this afternoon. So it wasn't week 2; it was the whole season. So anyways, he's really good. So congratulations, Bijan. Hey, Donkey Kong. Passing TDs are trending down in the NFL over the last 4 years, to the point where it was something like 110 passing touchdowns through week 2, 4 years ago, and there's 66, I think, so far this year, in 2024. So it's a pretty noticeable trend down. I mean, it's almost half. So, yeah, 105 in 2019. 110, 105, 86, 66.
Yeah, and then whatever happened on Monday Night Football, there weren't a ton of touchdowns, but I know there were a couple. And then looking in the running back grades, so this is where we were at for the 24 regular season. I did filter out minimum attempts because Amari DeMarcado only has 4 snaps, and he doesn't count. So
sure.
But yeah, I love seeing Montgomery out there. That's great. We should use him more.
Well, so I have a weird take on that for later when we start to talk about the Lions. The Rams have a real bummer of a situation with injuries through 2 weeks. They have Puka Nacua, who is out for some amount of time. I couldn't find an exact. The closest thing I saw,
IR, so he's at least 4 weeks.
So he's at least 4 weeks. I saw something that said his injury could facilitate anywhere between 3 and 7 weeks, which I thought was a weird timeline. Of course, Kupp got hurt in this last game, an ankle injury. Alaric Jackson,
he might also be on IR.
Yeah, well, you're preempting a lot.
And then they're spooked.
Yeah. Alaric Jackson is due to come back from suspension. Jonah Jackson looks like he could be headed to IR. Steve Avila, their
center/guard,
yeah, is now potentially looking at IR as well. Their safety, I think it's John Johnson, who had been playing very well for them. He is looking at potential IR. And, of course, Darius Williams has yet to play for them this year, plus a string of other less significant players. So they're in a real...
And they're missing Aaron Donald.
Yeah, he's not on IR. He's on...
He's not on IR, but he's, he's not on the team. And they miss him big time.
They do miss him quite a bit. I mean, why? How could you not? I mean, he's one of the greatest players in the history of the NFL. Yeah. So the Rams are looking like their season's got off. I mean, it looks like the injury bug has decided that if the Los Angeles Rams are going to make the playoffs, it's going to be because of some Herculean effort, on their part. So that's unfortunate. Another injury news that's pretty unfortunate, Tua Tagovailoa. Anywhere from he'll be back in a month to he'll never play football again, because we don't know.
It was another scary thing to watch.
Yeah, anytime a guy's arms go stiff like that, that is just kind of like, my goodness gracious. And this is, I know that all of these aren't official, but this is technically his 4th concussion, because one was apparently misdiagnosed in 2 years. Yeah. So he's had a concussion, on average every 6 months for the last 2 years. He was just tired. I don't know if
it's it's rough.
Took a nap on the field. A stiff nap.
Funny place to take a nap.
The AFC North is upside down. Pittsburgh's 2-0. I think Cincinnati and Baltimore are 0-2. And Cleveland is 1-1. That's just upside down from what I thought it would be.
At least Joe Burrow decided to show up and be Joe Burrow this last game. They didn't beat the Chiefs, but
no, that's Joe Burrow.
He played better.
Yeah. The AFC South is awful. The Houston Texans are the only team with any wins. The Chargers look like they're playing solid when we didn't know what they were going to look like. And Carolina looks just like a non-functional football team.
Franchise.
They just don't look like they. In fact, I was listening to a podcast today that was like they have to sit Tua down, or they have to sit Bryce Young down, which they have.
Yep.
In order to see what else on the team works.
Yeah. Dalton is going to be their starter now, I believe, right?
That's insane. It's just insane.
So this is the crazy part to me. I'm going to throw something up on the screen, and this is 2024, and these are the highest ranked players, highest graded players in football right now.
Yep.
Your PFF quarterback leaders are Kyler Murray, followed by Derek Carr, Geno Smith, and Sam Darnold. And I'm just like, what is going on in the NFL right now? It's pretty nuts. I think I had some notes here. So it was those guys, and then the guys that are missing, we've got Stafford's at 26, Dak is at 25, Herbert's at 24, Cousins is at 31, Hurts is at 32, and Goff is at 28. Basically, the entire normal rankings flip-flopped, where you would have Murray, Carr, Smith, Darnold at the bottom, and all of these big names typically in that top 12. And it boggles my mind how bad a lot of these elite quarterbacks are playing right now, or good, very good quarterbacks, if not elite, right? So it's definitely weird in the NFL in the first couple weeks.
I don't think that the problem is drafting 5'10 QBs overall. Mike just showed a graphic that a 5'10 QB is the highest rated player in the NFL. It's some of your other points, A6, are I think quite valid. Like, you need to, like Carolina is a good example. Like, is this the third coach that Bryce Young has had? Or is it the second? Because they brought in the other guy for like 6 games. But like, the problem in Carolina is David Tepper, the owner. Like, the best thing owners can do is to stay out of it and like let people who know how to run teams run the teams, and like, he is not doing that. He is actively involving himself in the teams. So, and then let me see.
So Zeka says Saints are the best team in the league right now.
Well, there's something like 15 out of 17 in the red zone. So they're scoring
like the
on
opposite.
Plays. Yeah, they are scoring on plays well outside of the red zone as well. Like, the thing about the Saints is that they are just scoring touchdowns and if they at just an not unpredictable, like an unprecedented rate. Like, they are just sorry.
Yeah, when you looked at that, or I'll pop that back on the screen, A6 actually kind of brings up a little bit of a point that I want to kind of like merge into a totally different idea. He talks about Bryce Young playing one drive in the preseason, and we wonder why he struggles. And I do wonder if the numbers of passing touchdowns in the first 2 weeks, the last 2 years, are so low because the number of starters the last 2 years that are not playing in games, like, it was always, they'll get, maybe a half or a couple drives or a quarter or something in that third preseason game, and they would usually play a little bit the first 2 and then get maybe a half in the third, and they sit out the fourth or something. And now they're not playing at all, and I just have to wonder if there's a problem with the first couple weeks getting on the same page and doing things at game speed when you just don't do it the last time they were at game speed was January, right? So I'll be curious to see if this trend affects whether teams start playing their starters in next year's preseason games, or if they just go, we're still just not going to do it.
They're not going to do it. There's no chance. Like, first of all, like, do you expect that Dak Prescott and Derek Carr, Jared Goff, Matt Stafford do not know how to run the offenses that they
I think they do, for sure.
So I don't think this is the difference between like, I got 3 drives in the preseason, or even if you played the whole last game.
Yeah.
But like, is that maybe more essential for somebody like Caleb Williams? Maybe. Probably. But like, I don't expect veteran quarterbacks to be like, oh, we haven't worked out the timing yet with the wide receivers. Like, you haven't. I mean, like, everything I've ever heard is like, oh, Tom Brady and would stay after practice with Julian Edelman and they'd run routes and that's how they develop their timing.
Right.
And that kind of thing. It's not like, oh, if it doesn't happen in an actual game setting, it's completely worthless. Like, I mean,
so
I think,
what do you think is the cause? Like, why the big drop the last 2 years? Because it's certainly not becoming not a passing league. It's still just as much a passing league as ever.
so my take on it is that, you remember Brandon Staley? He was I think he was the D coordinator of the Rams, and then he went to coach the Chargers for several years. He or somebody else innovated on Vic Fangio's defense, right? And they came up with this idea called too high. And it's basically just don't let the quarterbacks throw over the top of your head. I mean, there's way more to it than that, but that's a quick summary of it. Because people like the guy from Kansas City, who I'm told, Patrick Mahomes, and Josh Allen were throwing the ball down the field over the heads of safeties, and then the Bengals go out and they get Jamar Chase in the 2021 draft. In that year, Joe Burrow was just they were throwing the ball deep. So the NFL reacted by, well, we won't let you throw deep anymore. And so then like the Chiefs let Tyreek Hill go and they trade him to Miami. And it becomes more about this dink and dunk your way down the field type of offense. Take your shots where you can manufacture them, right? Like, how else do we get big plays? Okay, same year, Ben Johnson, the Lions go from a 3-13-1 season to what, 9-8? And Ben Johnson became the wunderkind of the NFL because he had figured out a way to generate explosive plays out of the running game. And so whether it's Ben Johnson's offense or the way that like Andy Reid and what's the guy's name in Buffalo? Sean McDermott, the way that they have adjusted their offensive schemes and how they use their quarterbacks has gone from, we're not going to throw deep anymore. Now we're doing all the underneath stuff. So if you're going to give us the space in front of you, we'll take that space.
Right.
And so instead of these long, explosive, fast plays, you have more time being dedicated to methodically moving down the field, and therefore scoring has dropped. And I think because of that, like the run game has become more and more important, because if you have a stout offensive line and you're able to generate decent, down and distance, like you can stay ahead of the chains, continue to move the ball, you eat up clock, you don't turn the ball over, that kind of shit that you've been taught about ever since you were a little kid watching football. So I think this is the natural evolution of the NFL and what you're seeing with the graphic.
Pendulum.
Yeah, it's like we are doing peaks and valleys, and like something will happen. Teams will become very good at dinking and dunking or running the football again, and you will have to bring more people down into the box, and then teams will start taking more shots down the field, and that will take some years or seasons or whatever the lifespan of NFL evolution is. But I think that is what we are witnessing here, is that like we have gone from teams wanting explosive down the field throwers to, you can do that, but now you also have to do this because that's what we are able to manufacture all the time in every game. So that's what I think it is.
Yeah, that seems reasonable. I mean, I don't know any reason why it couldn't be that, or at least, in part that. I don't know what else it could be other than the lack of game prep, game speed stuff, which, to your point, it's not like Matt Stafford or Jared Goff or, Dak Prescott that haven't been in these offenses for years and know what they're doing. So I don't know what it is. It's really curious because we still have people throwing 40 touchdowns a year, and so it's not like we're not throwing the ball. There's still your higher end passers are going to be in that 4,500 to 4,700 yard range, just like they have been for the last 10 years. But we're just not getting the early stuff. So is it just seeing what the defenses are doing and then adjusting to it as the season goes along? Once there's more tape on your opponent, maybe. And Zeka says, did you guys see Dan Campbell said he wouldn't be surprised if the offense isn't cooking by the bye? And does that concern us? I did see that, and yes, it does concern me. If we are not cooking in the next 2 games and we don't beat Arizona, we go and play Seattle and lay another egg there. Yeah, absolutely, it concerns us because I think if we don't beat those teams, there's a fair chance you might not win the division. Mm-hmm. And if you don't win the division, you're now fighting for a wild card spot. And who beat us? The other people fighting for wild card spots. So yeah, that scares the shit out of me.
Yeah. In week 1, I harped on the fact that quote unquote these games count as much as any other games count. And like the graphic that I saw today was that like the Bengals and the Ravens are 0-2. And like if you go 0-3, your chances of making the playoffs like plummet. So it's win now. It's you got to win right now. So am I concerned that the offense isn't running? Yeah, but like I guess my greater concern is that like I don't understand why the offense seems to be running the way that it is. So like in week 1, J-Mo's targeted 9 times. Great. I'm fine with him getting 9 targets in a game. But Sam Laporta and Amon-Ra St. Brown were targeted like 5 combined targets. Like, what is that? And there's another stat that I have here that between Montgomery and Gibbs, and I was fully expecting that when I was looking up the stats that like Montgomery was going to be way out in front of Gibbs. And it's not that. But like when I watch Montgomery play football, I feel like he's the better running back for what the Lions I think need to get back to, which is like figuring out down and distance. Because when you look at like the team stats from this Bucs game, the Lions have them covered in almost every statistical category except the score.
Right.
And of course, turnovers, they turned the ball over one more time than Tampa Bay did, So like, but the thing about the Lions, at least, that I was looking at was like they were 2 for 7 on 3rd down in the first half, and so they got to, they did better, they got a little better in the second half, 7 out of 17, but 41%, that's not great. Better than Chiefs, doubled up on yards almost. They ran almost twice as many plays and they lost, and I don't know where
1
that
for
shows
7
up.
in the red zone.
That's, if you get down into scoring position and you don't score touchdowns.
That's exactly why we beat the Rams in the playoffs, right? Like they got down there and they couldn't score in the red zone. Or they for the most part, we played great against the Rams. They played just as good, if not a little bit better. I thought they slightly outplayed us. But the big difference is they did not score in the red zone and we did. Our defense came up big in the red zone. Theirs didn't, and that was the ball game. That was the 1 point difference. There was the red zone, and that is where we're running into here. We are getting down to the red zone. Did you know that we are throwing the ball more in the red zone than any other team in the NFL?
Maybe we should stop.
Why? We've got Gibbs, we got Monty. They are. Montgomery is the second best graded running back in the NFL right now. Like, why are you not utilizing him? And Gibbs is, if I remember right, Gibbs was still in like the top. Let me see if I can find it by position. Running back. Let's see where we're at here. Gibbs is 17th, right? So we've got, and actually, if you start filtering for the people that only have gotten a couple attempts, Gibbs is 13th and Montgomery's 3rd, tied for 2nd, really. So, like, why are we not using them in the red zone and throwing so damn much? We're wasting it. We're wasting opportunities to put points on the board.
Yes, I agree with that. And I don't know what I have my idea. I have a theory.
Let's hear it.
Well, so one of the worst players on the entire team so far has been Jared Goff, right? So like,
yes, you're
that's
not going to win with your quarterbacks throwing in the 40s, like a 40s grade every week.
So through 2 games, he is on pace to match what the grade that he got in his rookie season. And he has thrown, I believe, 3 picks so far. So he's on pace for a 25 interception season. Now, that's probably not, that's a little bit doom and gloom, but like he's probably not, that's probably not going to happen. But like, I mean, he's averaged somewhere between like 9 and 13 interceptions a season over like the last 5 years. But so like that would be twice or more than what he quote unquote average, throws on average. But I mean, when I saw Jared Goff play in this last game, okay, like week 1, you don't play in the preseason or whatever to kind of talk back to or bring it back to some of the points that were made earlier. Like, okay, maybe there's a little rust. Yeah, it makes no difference whether you play in the preseason or not. No, there's probably rust. Okay, you got the win, gritty win, didn't look good. All right, but week 2, you got a whole week of practice. You're in that game. Like, how many games do you need to knock the rust off? I mean, and like he had a couple of nice throws to like St. Brown, but like Laporta was another no-show in this game. And I kept looking online for somebody to be like, this is what the Bucs did to take away the Lions passing attack. And the only thing that I found was a one-liner in one of the beat writers of The Athletic was like, they took their linebackers and they just told them to sit on the intermediate routes. And I was like, if that's all it takes,
that is all it takes,
Lions, then like, oh shit, because then the Bucs just gave the game plan to the rest of the NFL.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, that's all it takes, right? Because when you look at his pass production, the best grades in which depth, it is anything over 20 yards. It is not great. He did drop a beauty of a dime to JMO. I will say, he didn't really have to slow down. It was basically right on stride. It was led. It was 50 yards in the air or whatever it was. Maybe not quite all that in the air, but like it was a beautiful pass, right? But that's the exception. That was the only completion over 20 yards for him. All of his other stuff is in between. It's under 20 yards. Most of the time, it is in that 0 to 10 range. I was looking, and where did I find
A6? Name me both. Name me the 2 Bucs linebackers. Go ahead, Mike. Don't look it up. Name it off the top of your head, dude.
Yeah, I'm trying to find. Okay, so he completed 6 for 18. He was 33% on passes over 10 yards. 33 of his 55 dropbacks. 55 dropbacks. If he's dropping back 55 times, something's
they ran 86 plays. Yeah. They ran 86 plays.
33 of his 55 dropbacks were 10 yards or less. Other than the one pass to JMO that went over 20 yards, his top 3 highest grades for depth were all the ones behind the line of scrimmage. Behind the line of scrimmage to the left, behind the line of scrimmage to the right, and behind the line of scrimmage to the center were his 3 best graded distances. And then after that, it was 0 to 10. Like, that's his bread and butter, is 10 yards and under. His 10 to 20 is okay as well. But if you got a guy sitting on the 12, you got the under, you got the over, he's screwed. And I think they kind of showed that this week. David and the other dude who's stupid fast. David. Oh, Levante did, yeah.
So the other guy is KJ Britt, who was a 5th round pick out of Auburn in the 2021 draft. So I think the guy that he's thinking about now plays for Philadelphia. Devin White, who was like the 5th overall pick not that long ago. And like Levante David's a good player. Like, but I mean, is he so good? I mean, he's not Fred Warner. I mean, like, is he so good that he disrupts an entire game plan? That's my point. Is he
even Anzalone?
Well, oh, by the way, who has a concussion? So
super bummed because he's played really well the first 2 games.
I wondered why Barnes was on the field so much in the second half of the Bucs game, which he didn't play bad, but like he was on the field quite a lot. Yeah. Basically, my take on this is that the Lions need to run the ball more. So I looked up the O-line. Decker has an 80 pass blocking grade. It's really good. And a 61 run blocking grade. It's not as good. Glasgow has a 52.8 pass blocking grade. We'll come back to that in a second. A 79 run blocking grade. It's really good. Ragnow, 45 grade for pass blocking. 74 for run blocking. Zeitler was 76 and 67. So it's pretty run of the mill. Sewell 70 and 77. So like, here's my take is that when they pass block, teams are rushing somewhere either right at Glasgow and or Frank Ragnow or in between them. And if there's some kind of communication problem, I don't know. But like, that is where the pressure is coming from, is it is coming up the middle in that B gap. So not good. So my thing is run the ball on the right-hand side of the line.
Yeah.
Run it behind
do what works. Send it behind Sewell and Zeitler.
Yeah. Put fucking Brock Wright over on there or Dan Skipper, one of the two of them, and just go. And just do it. You know, run the ball 55 times, throw it 31. Like, here's my problem. You give Goff 55 million or whatever it is, 53 million. And the plan and like what the Lions do effectively is to run the ball more. Is to take the ball out of his hands and run the ball more. Like, I don't understand. I mean, so like the thing that I saw wasn't working most of the game last week either. What wasn't? Running the ball. They ran the ball real well. They ran the ball. They had like 130 yards on the ground. I mean, it wasn't. Yeah. It certainly wasn't bad. They weren't bad at it. But like, I think the problem is that they would run for 3 yards and then Goff would incomplete a pass, and then you're in 3rd and 7, and then they're terrible at that. So like, I think it's going to have to be like, well, then pull Sewell, have him pull across the line,
pull block,
or something like that, instead of just running right behind him. Ben just needs to get back to his bread and butter. So sure, I mean, but like, so here's my thing: like, if you run Ben Johnson's bread and butter, and this is just if this is a problem with Jared Goff simply not being as accurate, then his bread and butter is not his bread and butter, because the offense is predicated on that. So a lot of our rushing yards were the non-standard running plays.
You're talking about like jet sweeps with like JMO? He did have, I think, one 15-yard jet sweep, but I'm not sure what else you're thinking might be a non-standard run
We're
play.
Down to 121 yards on the ground then. I mean, like, I think the thing that the Lions need to do, and Zake will just hit on it, as a core part of their offense, is you have invested in the offensive line. Like, use them as a weapon first. Like, get the ball going on the ground. So here's the stat that I was kind of surprised at. Because I saw David Montgomery's grade. I'm a huge David Montgomery fan. I thought David Montgomery was the more effective runner, but David Montgomery has averaged 4.5 yards per carry so far this season. Jahmyr Gibbs has averaged 5.2 and has 3 times as many 10+ runs of 10+ yards. You know, yards after contact, you know, that one of the reasons they signed David Montgomery, 3.1. Gibbs is 3.5. You know, like, here's my thing. Play these two guys on the field together. Have David Montgomery line up in the backfield. Have Gibbs line up across from Montgomery in the backfield. And then have Goff go to the line and look at the defense and then flex out Gibbs to wherever he wants a matchup.
Yeah.
And then you can say, you'll get the motion, so you'll know man or zone. and then you can check that play. Jared Goff knows this offense well enough to be able to make that call.
So I want to ask you a question then, based on that statement. One of the things that I noticed, well, a lot of people were complaining about Ben Johnson, right? Oh, there's too many passing. What happened to our run? Ben Johnson's offense, he needs to do something because this game was on him. The play calling was lame. I don't know how many times I heard kill, 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 and the play was changed at the line.
Sure.
How much of last game was because Jared Goff saw something, I don't know whatever it was he saw, sees something, kills that play, audibles to something else. Many times it obviously was to his, a pass, but like how much of actually the last game was Ben Johnson's offense? I mean, did you notice that there were a ton of kill, change the play at the line kind of things, like all over the place?
Whether or not, I mean, it's entirely possible that there was. I didn't notice it, but if you're changing to something from something, it's still Ben Johnson's offense. I mean, like that's just the thing. Like it's not.
But it wasn't Ben Johnson's call. Like it's Jared Goff making that decision probably. Unless and maybe they don't. Maybe he goes, "Hey, this is the play." But if you see this other thing, then audible to this. So maybe he's getting 2 plays. I don't know exactly how that works. Coming through the headset. But I do wonder if there was some of that. Like I'm just gonna call it the way that I think I see it.
But Jared Goff, I don't think Jared Goff is checking to a completely new play. Like they're checking to, like if we see this, we're checking to that, and here's what I'm calling.
Yeah.
It's not like he's creating a new offensive strategy at the line of scrimmage. Like they have the checks. So as Brian said here, as I said, Bulls set Goff up to audible into plays they were ready for. Maybe that's the case. Mm-hmm. If that's the case, that's a brand new thing because the most effective quarterback against Todd Bowles' defense over the last however long Jared Goff has been in the NFL has been Jared Goff. So wherever Todd Bowles has coached defense, Jared Goff, whether it was with the Lions or the Rams, has eviscerated Todd Bowles' defense more than Josh Allen, more than Patrick Mahomes, more than Dak Prescott. Name your quarterback because Goff's at the top of that list. So if Brian is right and that is what happened, then congratulations to Todd Bowles because he figured that shit out.
Yeah.
So
and this is exactly what I'm thinking. What Brian said, like they showed a heavy box. You check out of the run. Most of the checks, at least that I noticed, ended up into plays. A pass play of some sort. And I do wonder if they outsmarted Goff. And I've never been a big fan of Goff's ability to read defenses. I think he processes things slower than a lot of the elite quarterbacks. So I do wonder if that was part of the problem. Is they just showed him things, got him to change the play, and then they were essentially ready for what that play was going to be. What's up, Hatters? Hatters says, Lions gave it away. Goff was terrible. Ben Johnson was passing too much.
What I will say is I don't think there is a distinction between what Jared Goff does at the line and what how Ben Johnson runs the offense. I just do not think that those two are two separate things. So if they give Jared Goff the ability to check, it's into something that they know based on something that they saw.
Right.
It is not Jared Goff determining. I mean, if you're Peyton Manning, if you're Tom Brady, if you're Patrick Mahomes, you can probably go into the huddle and call whatever the fuck you want.
Right.
And the guys on the field are going to be like, well, you're Patrick Mahomes, you're Tom Brady, you're Peyton Manning. I'll just do whatever you say. But and I'm sure that if Jared Goff goes in the huddle and calls some play and it's just not what Ben Johnson wants, I don't think we ever hear about it, but he sure as fuck didn't do it all game.
Right.
I mean, that's just not the way shit works. That's just not the way that the NFL works. Well, I mean, so the Fire Aaron Glenn crowd are just bitches at this point because the Detroit Lions defense, and this is really going to get me going down an avalanche here because the defense is good.
Yeah. We wasted a 4.5 sack game by Hutch. That was dominant.
Aiden Hutchinson has half as many sacks that he had all of last season through 2 games.
And he has more sacks than the entirety of like 6 different teams.
Yes. So like he has played backup offensive lineman, no doubt. But like this is what you want from someone playing a backup offensive lineman. So like his pass rush win rate, which I always have such a hard time saying, is so high that he is like 20 points higher than the next highest person in the NFL, who is Josh Uche, of all people, for New England. And he has something like 40 additional pass rush snaps than Josh Uche. So he's doing it at more than almost twice the number in a greater sample size. I mean, that's tough. Like he's almost unblockable for the first 2 games. Now, we're going to Arizona. Their offensive line has been playing pretty well. However,
and their defensive line, they owned the line of scrimmage against the Rams. They pushed them around and did what they wanted, both on offense and defense.
I don't think we're beating Arizona in Arizona. I'll just say that right now.
I thought we were at the beginning of the season, but after watching the last 2 weeks and watching what Arizona just did to the Rams, Kyler Murray found out apparently on Sunday that Marvin Harrison Jr. is on the team because they connected really quick. It only took him 2 games to establish that connection. I thought it was 2 years to get a new rookie quarterback connected with their veteran or the rookie wide receiver connected with their veteran quarterback. But maybe that's just us. But they were on fire, so I'm a little worried about that.
So I'm going to go out on a limb here. I know he went to Ohio State, and I'm going to be called a hater, and I absolutely am when it comes to Ohio State. I don't think Marvin Harrison's going to live up to the hype.
No,
I just don't think he will. I mean, I don't see it. Like, maybe, I mean, and this is, I mean, I watched him play at Ohio State. So, and he had moments of brilliance. There's no doubt about it. And there's a lot of NFL people in the NFL that know more than I do, whose jobs are reliant on making the kinds of decisions that I'm being like, yeah, he's bad. But like, I'm willing to go out and put my money on, is he ever going to be a top 15 wide receiver in the NFL? I mean, I would bet no. When the opposing team gains 200 total offense and your fans want to. Well, I mean, like this, but this is the thing with those fans, right? And like, no matter what group you're talking about who doesn't like somebody, they find a reason to latch onto something, a scapegoat. This is the reason, whatever. And then anytime anything bad happens, that becomes the reason for it. So the Lions aren't winning. Well, it's Aaron Glenn's fault. We have to fire Aaron Glenn because the defense isn't playing good. Bullshit, the defense isn't playing good. Like, that's what tells me that they're not paying attention, or like they're taking the situation and they're forcing it to fit their narrative, as opposed to looking at the situation and changing their narrative to fit what the situation is. That's something that we try and do here. Is like we're not trying to say, I mean, like I have had to eat crow on several topics because I was wrong about that shit, right? Like at the end of last season, I was giving Jared Goff lots of props because he was playing well. And you can't just sit here and be like, now he's still bad. Here's why. I'm not Pike, right? So I mean, like, you have to fit your narrative to what the facts are telling you. So right now, he's not playing very well. But like, that's not Aaron Glenn's fault. Aaron Glenn. Yeah. I get names mixed up sometimes. So like, I don't know what so Anzalone got a concussion. Terrion Arnold hasn't been, I think he looks like a rookie, right now. Carlton Davis has played well. Brian Branch has played well. Kirby Joseph is playing well. If it wasn't for Mike wants to blame everything. I do too, but I don't. Neither does Mike,
No.
So who's the Cardinals' best?
But he is playing like garbage this year. Like this is a big regression from last year. And anybody that doesn't say that is lying to themselves. This is not the Jared Goff of last year and most of the previous year. right? So, am I blaming this on Goff? Not. I mean, we win as a team and we lose as a team, right? So, the coach had a gaffe at the end of the first half where he sent the punt or the field goal team on as they were trying to spike it, and then we 10-second runoff because that's what we like to do to end halves. Apparently, when we're trying to score is 10-second runoffs. Like that cost us 3 points, and I get Campbell's like, I cost the team the game. Like, you cost the team 3 points. It's no different than if a kicker went out there and missed a field goal. They didn't lose that game if they missed a field goal. If you had getting them out there, right? They had 30 minutes to come back. We played like crap in that other 30 minutes. We threw an interception, a really bad interception in the red zone in the end zone. The first interception was not on Goff. That was clear pass interference on JMO. Knocked him down, and I'm just like, how did you not see that, right? So that one interception wasn't Goff's fault. The other interception, I don't know where he just got flustered. Like he got pressure and he just chucked it to the middle of the field before anybody turned that direction. I know Patrick kind of veered out toward the back right of the end zone instead of in the middle, which is, I don't know what what the actual play was. Did he run the wrong route, or was he supposed to run right into the middle where all the defenders were? I don't know, right? So it's definitely not just Goff's fault. It was a team loss. Our offense, the play calling wasn't particularly great. Goff didn't play particularly great. We had a couple drops. We threw short of the sticks several times. And the thing that really irritates me, to be honest, of all of those things, is we have a chance to go down and win it. Now, granted, it's a low chance, right? It's the last play of the game, more or less, for us. And they're in this like prevent. I'm going to line everybody up on the end zone. And our wide receivers are down there. It's 25 yards, and he throws the ball into their feet. Uncovered wide receivers couldn't get it to them where they could at least catch the ball and try to get through the line to score a touchdown. And I was like, this is unconscionable. You have to make that throw. That was probably what pissed me off more than any of the other things. But no, it wasn't Goff's fault. It wasn't Campbell's fault. It was a team loss, mostly on the offense, not on the defense.
Yeah, I do think that the defense through 2 games has played better than the offense on the whole. And just for the Arizona's best defensive player conversation, I think it's Zaven Collins. Just going to throw that out there.
Budda Baker played really well, but Zaven Collins also played really well on Sunday.
Yes. So that's just my 2 cents. But I like linemen. So that's probably it. I think this is a reality check for the Lions. If you want to talk about grit, if that's going to be the calling card, if that's the motto, if that's what you put on the hats and the clothing and the merchandise and all that kind of stuff, like, okay, time to show it. And if it is on the coaches, that grit has to be like, we got to do something. We got to do what's working right now. Let's do that a lot. And let's see if we can build and have that be the base to build off of in order to help Jared Goff, in order to help Frank Ragnow, Graham Glasgow, Sam Laporta, and just the guys who maybe have not looked like the guys they were last year thus far. If Laporta's hurt, he needs to get healthy. If that's what the difference is, if he's hurt to the point that he can't get open, that's pretty significant because he's now a blocking tight end. Do you have to run? Do you want to run 4 wide? Well, do they have 4 wide receivers that are worth putting out on the field? I know they got 3. If Tim Patrick, or Allen Robinson, or even Donovan Peoples-Jones, acclimate to the offense and impress the coaches in practice, then put one of them out there. Whatever it takes, basically.
Are you worried about this coming game?
Oh, 100% I'm worried about it. I am I was very confident in the first 2 weeks, and that balloon has been popped. So here's the way that I look at it. Arizona has been playing well. They're 1-1. Detroit has not been playing well. They're 1-1, and we're at Arizona. So
yeah. And what has me worried is Kyler Murray is looking like the Kyler Murray that signed the $45 million contract.
That's right.
He's clicking with Marvin Harrison Jr. His offensive grade, his overall grade on Sunday was 96.9. He is currently leading the NFL on the season, not just for week 2, in overall grades. And historically, we have struggled against mobile quarterbacks. And he's a mobile quarterback. So I'm a little worried about how that's going to look.
Yeah, to me, and this might just be, I might just be like, oh, run the game plan. And to me, the game plan is, after week 1, the Lions' offensive line was rated the best in the NFL by PFF. Probably not after week 2. But it's still, as far as I am concerned, it is the absolute strength of this entire team. And I would be doing as much to highlight how good that offensive line is as I possibly could. And if that means playing Gibbs and Montgomery together, whatever. Gibbs is as much a wide receiver as he is a running back, and he's a pretty good running back. So I think having them out there and figuring out where your mismatch is the best thing that they could be doing, because I think through 3 weeks, he's the 3rd leading wide receiver on the team as far as catches. I think he's got pretty decent.
Who's that?
Gibbs.
Oh, I can look. I think that's correct.
Thanks. So
anytime, buddy. Oh shit.
I've never played Call of Duty Day 6, and so therefore I will not be calling Activision. But
well, the joke is Kyler Murray is a huge Call of Duty fan, and when a new Call of Duty map or version of whatever comes out, he is like all on that and plays poorly. Correlation does not equal causation, but you know what? If there's a way that they can drop a new map today, that would be pretty great.
I'm really worried about Arizona. There is nothing about the way the season has gone so far that I think would make Arizona unconfident. And if Kyler's playing this well, I just don't want to bet that the next game, which happens to be against us, is the one where he stops playing well.
Yeah.
And I think that the defense is better, but are they good enough to go out and stop the quarterback that's playing the best in the NFL right now? I wouldn't put my money on that. Baker Mayfield just beat us, and Mayfield wasn't outstanding. I mean, but he wasn't carving us up, but he didn't play poorly, So, and they did get kind of lucky in the sense that they fumbled twice in the red zone, and the ball bounced up into their hands twice. That shit doesn't happen very often, but the other thing, but what I would say is that Jared Goff had 2 turnover worthy plays that weren't turnovers, and we were fortunate in that sense, so whether that's a cornerback dropping the ball or, whatever else it counts as, but we got lucky there. Everybody kind of gets lucky at certain points in the game based off how the ball bounces. And this time the ball bounced to them in somewhat critical situations. So they played better. They had, some amount of luck on their side, which was good. They made fewer mistakes, and they had 1 less turnover, and we were penalized the same number of times. They were penalized about half the amount of yards. So their mistakes were just not as egregious. And when you make fewer mistakes, even if you are getting fucking creamed in yards and plays and time of possession and all this other shit, if you take advantage of your opportunities and you make fewer mistakes, you win football games. And that's what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did in Detroit on Sunday, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at the number of yards difference, like how did we have 200 more yards than them and still lose? Well, when you drive all the way down the field, you get into the red zone and throw an interception, you just created a whole bunch of yards for no points, right? When you drive all the way down the field and at the end of the half, you send the punt team out, you have a 10-second runoff, you don't get to kick, a field goal, get any points. You just charged up, 60, 70 yards and didn't get any points out of it. And those empty yards are what kill you, right? If you're going to go 70 yards downfield, you get points out of it. And we didn't do that. 7 trips to the red zone, we had 1 touchdown. You can't win doing that. So, Brian says Goff has a few rough games each year. I will worry if it continues, but so far it's within the norms. Unfortunately, yeah. The problem is the norms started the season, so it'd be different if he was playing, a bunch of games graded in the 70s and 80s, and then had a couple duds like last year, and then he come back strong. But hopefully he can turn it around. Hope this is it has to be a wake up call to him. Laporta has not performed as much, but supposedly that is also partially because of the injury in preseason was a little bit worse than originally thought, maybe. But we need to get him involved and get Gibbs and Monty running a little bit more. Yeah, are you talking about the pass and he like dropped it on like 3rd down or something like that? The little dump pass.
Reynolds. Come on.
Lions -3 on Arizona.
So that means
Arizona.
They're the favorite.
Yeah.
I don't think he misses Reynolds. I mean, I think a more accurate statement would be like the offense functions differently with someone Josh Reynolds' size in the game. What do you mean? He only threw the ball to St. Brown. He threw to him a lot in the second game, but in the first game, they threw to him like twice.
Yeah, and he had like something like 20 targets in the second game, so he's still like in the top 3 or 4 in the NFL, but only because of the second game.
I don't know that there's a single thing. Oh, and okay, maybe put those 2 things into one post altogether. Like get that second sentence. There's no character limit. I don't think. Get that second sentence in there. It saves me from looking stupid. That's all I'm asking, Hatters. But the thing about Jared Goff to me is that when he was playing well, as the team and the roster have improved around him, he didn't have these stretches where he starts out like this. Excuse me. It was bad when they were 3-13. They got better. He started to play better. The second half of that second year when they ripped off 7 out of 8 to end the season or whatever, 8 out of 10 or whatever it was. Yeah, because they were 1-7 to start the season. So, since that run in the second and halfway through the second season, like he's played at around this level, or let's call it the best version of Jared Goff level, right? So last year, he basically played the whole year except for 1 3-game stretch, which was inexplicable. But now he's starting the season off that way. So, like, what is the difference? Is it
like, he gets his crap together and then goes the next 15 games without doing this again? I'd be pretty thrilled.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. Except that then you're like, oh, okay, now we're in the playoffs and like he's due for a bad game. So like, if that's who Jared Goff is, I think that we would know it by now. And I just am not convinced that is who Jared Goff is. Because there have been, with the Rams, longer stretches that he didn't play this well or had that many terrible performances. So it's probably a combination of a lot of little things. And so I think that what I am looking for out of this team in Arizona is some semblance of this is the thing that we're going to hang our hat on. What is the offensive identity of the Detroit Lions? Because right now it feels like they do not have one. So if I am Ben Johnson, if I am Dan Campbell, my game plan for Arizona is we are going to try A and then B, and if B doesn't work, we're going back to A, and like we're going to force one of these things to be like, whether or not it works, we're going down swinging with this is the thing that we're going to hang our hat on. You have to take pride in this. Sorry, it's time for me to do my stretches. But whether it's running the ball or you throw to St. Brown, I don't drink. Or you just throw you can throw the ball to St. Brown 30 times in this game for all I give a shit. So long as you're getting first downs, moving the ball, and scoring in the red zone. Like, I don't care what they do so long as it effectively leads to them winning the game. But, like, don't do a bunch of different stuff that causes you to lose the game. And, like, they have to know, 3 or 4 drives into the game, like, oh, A or B is not working. Let's start figuring out why, and just, like, trying to adjust or do anything different. But, like, it feels, I think that Gibbs and Montgomery have the exact same number of rushing attempts so far this year. And, like, to me, that says they are both on a pitch clock. Like, we are going to give you 14 rushes and then you get your 14 rushes. Like, does that make any sense? The only way that makes any sense is that you just don't want either one of them to get hurt. But you can't know that.
Well, I think they have different packages that they're each kind of special for, but are you only putting those packages in on certain drives? Like, oh, this drive is going to be a Gibbs package, this drive is going to be a Monty package.
See, you're right.
They've got Monty's got 20. Yeah, Monty's got 28 attempts, and Gibbs has 24 attempts.
And the difference between Gibbs and Montgomery now, as far as playing time, is that Gibbs is in the games on twice as many passing snaps as Montgomery is.
Yeah.
So, like, he's basically playing 4 snaps to every 3 of Montgomery's, right? So, like, that's fine. I guess I don't really have a problem with that. But if this dude is I'm still waiting to see how Jahmyr Gibbs is an offensive weapon.
Yeah.
Like, he's
a running back right now.
Use him like Christian McCaffrey or something. Like, line him up in the slot. Like, get him on a linebacker. Like, if you're going to check down to Jahmyr Gibbs, like, I saw too much of, like, he would check down to anybody, mostly Jahmyr Gibbs, and then Gibbs tries to make one guy miss, and Tampa Bay just tackled too damn well most of the time. Like, when the ball got forced out to the flats, Tampa Bay had to have felt like, well, we won the game. We won this down.
They had 12 guys that had a tackling grade of 70 or better. Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. Wrong game. That's Arizona, which also makes me a little worried. Let me find the correct game. Defense. They had 8 guys with a grade of 70 or better, but they had 12 that were a 68 or better, which are really close. But there were a couple of them that were just under 70. So they had 12 guys with a 68 grade or better. Tampa Bay did.
And here's a stat, and you'll probably find something that says that I'm wrong on this. But I looked up the game reports, and it was either week 2 or so far this season, the Lions are the best tackling team in the NFL. Can you believe that?
That is interesting.
Per PFF. And I looked at that and I thought, nah, that's not right. But, like, the Lions have to clean up their penalties, which largely to this point have been Terry and Arnold. Whether or not you agree with whether or not there are valid pass interference calls or not, they're getting called. So, like, the reality is that they're committing, like, penalties. If he gets those cleaned up, which Glenn says he's working on, like, get your head around, don't grab, that's the kind of thing. But, like, that's the kind of thing. Like, he grabbed in college. Like, that was part of the MO on him when he came out, was that he's a bit grabby.
A little grabby.
That's also Rakestraw's problem. Now, the difference is that Rakestraw's played 3 snaps, and Arnold's played like 130 so far. So, like, the sample size, not the same thing.
Right.
But
you are correct.
Yeah.
We are leading the regular season right now for tackling grades. We are at 75.4. We are also leading the pass rush grades, actually by quite a bit, 86 grade.
Mike, do me a favor. Click on the defense grade.
Overall defense. Number 5.
Now click on the offense
77.2. Let me scroll. 17.
This has to be reversed.
Well, where's the problem? Let me click on passing specifically. 28.
Yeah, click on running. Let's just go. Let's just see the whole thing.
Let's do them all. Number 2. Yeah, I wonder what we need to do in the red zone, guys.
You know,
we have had more pass plays in the red zone than any other team, but we have the second best run game in the NFL.
Yeah, so I mean, you're playing good defense, you're running the ball well, you're 1-1. Okay, now losing this game is not the end of the world. But if the Lions do not learn from the mistakes and change, then that's the real error. Yeah. And you have your first opportunity to change this coming Sunday, but you have to go into Arizona against a confident Arizona Cardinals team who I think a lot of people think, oh, Arizona, they're hot garbage. And this year, so far, they are not. And I'm shocked that that Vegas is picking the Lions to win the game by a relatively we think the Lions should win. Give them a -3. Give them 3 points or whatever. That's pretty much the standard we think you're going to win bet. But I'm surprised that the Lions are favored in this game. I think they absolutely have the capability to beat the Arizona Cardinals in Arizona. But I absolutely think that a confident Arizona team is with Kyler Murray playing this well, is who fucking cares if it's the Detroit Lions?
Hopefully here that they are the 31st graded coverage team in the NFL right now. If this doesn't get our passing game on track, then I'm not sure what will, right? I don't think we play Washington. So this is our best bet to kick things into high gear and start coming back with an adequate passing game. I do a very interesting stat. I'll pop this off. In the Tampa Bay Detroit game, week 2, their offense had how many? Okay, our offense had 8 guys with a grade of 66 or higher.
Yep.
How many players on Tampa Bay's offense had a grade of 66 or higher?
Well, I certainly think Chris Godwin did.
He was a 90 grade. He killed it.
I'm betting Baker was. No?
They had no players other than Chris Godwin graded over a 66.
Well, when you find a weak spot, you exploit it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Chris Godwin looked like Chris Godwin of 2 years ago.
Yeah.
When he was maybe the best slot receiver in the NFL. I mean, he was unstoppable. It didn't help that Amik Robertson passed him off to Terry and Arnold, and Terry and Arnold, who was covering Mike Evans, who was going over the middle. That play worked like you designed it up in fucking Madden. His 40-yard touchdown or whatever he caught. But
I just thought that was super interesting. This team here beat us.
There's no number that I have looked at that I could say definitively pointed to Tampa Bay should have won for this reason. There just isn't. I mean,
look at our offense. Look at that. There's a bunch of them that were above 66, which you start getting into that green, right?
Keone Vaki are not offensive players. I mean, not really.
That's true. That's true.
So, I mean, let's take 2 of those. So it's still 4.
But yeah, I mean, you still had 6 guys, right? Because we had 8, 66 or above. And then on the defense, we had, Hutch was up there. Branch had a great game with 86, Kirby Joseph. But if you look at their defense played actually pretty well, which I found interesting that they had that many people in the green. Hold on a second. There's snap counts of like one. So they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's a few guys in there that are probably just on there for one play. I don't know what that would have been. But anyway, that's it's interesting the way that those stats come out, and you're like, how did we lose? We have time of possession, we have yards, we had almost everything except for red zone offense.
It's turnovers, penalty yards, red zone effectiveness, and the fact that like then there's the mistakes that you can't quantify, like the coaching error at the end of the first half, which to me is just not like, oh, the game hinged on this.
It's the first half.
Right. So I mean, like
30 minutes to recover from it.
If I have a complaint about the Detroit Lions, it's like, you are not finishing games. Like in the most recent pass of the Detroit Lions,
we haven't started games.
Well, I'd rather finish them than start them.
It's true. That's true. But like, if you're not starting games, you're going to have to come back all the time. We didn't start well against the Niners or the Rams either, did we?
No. So that's just it. Like, my complaint basically, I mean, like, I did not like what I saw in the second half of the NFC Championship game. And I've kind of been there ever since. Like, is that you got to come out, and this is 4 quarters, man. And like in the Rams game, they took, they were up 17-3, and then all of a sudden it was the Rams score 17 unanswered. And now you got to have heroics, right? You got to now you have one chance to be successful, get a field goal. Now you have to go win in overtime. Okay. I mean, like, they did those things. Good. That's great. But they should never have been in that position. If they have just played the Rams even, they would have decimated the Rams. So like, that's my problem. And then in this game, so I have railed against the Lions going for it on 4th down for 2 years. I've railed against stop leading the league in 4th down attempts. This is stupid. Like, you don't need to be pushing the envelope this hard. Okay. My point was, you're doing it too much. Are the times that you're doing it the right times to be doing it? You have signed Jake Bates. You can still do it, guys. Like, you can still go for it on 4th down. Like, you don't have to go from doing it the most in the NFL to the least. Like, you can just have a happy medium of that shit. So, I mean, like, here's my issue. Like, stay aggressive. Like, stay aggressive. Do that. That leads to winning, in my opinion. Like, passivity does not mean that. I mean, if passivity was the key to winning football games, more teams would be passive, and they just are not. Like, you need to stay aggressive. So, like, if you are inside, like, when you come out in Arizona and, like, in the first quarter, if you get down in the red zone, you would be better going for 7 points, if not 8. Like, I very much would love to see the Lions come out and been like, the first time that we score a touchdown, we're going for 2. And that's just the way that shit goes. Because, like, if the rationale for going for 2 points at any point in the game is that you're either going to take the lead or maintain the lead or get to a place where you get within 1 score or whatever the reasonings are, that has to have an aggressive component on the other side of the spectrum to it. Where we are up 8, we are effectively up 2 scores. Because are you going to convince opponent X that on their first opportunity scoring to go for a 2-point conversion, that you're going to put the pressure on them to do it? Like, if you have, I mean, I know the offense isn't running the way that it is, but like, let's do that. Like, let's have Dan Campbell be like, we're going for 2. We're going to go for it on 4th down. Like, don't run a fake punt inside your own 20. Go for it on 4th down in the same drive and get like a punt of net 25 yards out of it.
Yeah. Like,
that's aggressiveness that didn't do anything. Like, let's be aggressive, like, when aggression is the most beneficial.
Yeah.
Like,
calculated aggression.
Exactly. The whole thing to me seems a little subdued, a little, where are we? What footing are we on? Like, we don't really know who this team is, that kind of thing. And I would just pick something like, let's run the ball and go for it on fourth down. We're the fucking Detroit Lions. Let's go. Like, and if we go down swinging, fine. Like, but at least we will have like started something.
Yeah.
As an identity for this team, because right now I just don't think that they have an identity.
Yeah, it's a little bit off compared to what it was last year when we were successful. That aggressiveness. Yeah. We are overtime, which is awesome and fun because that means we get to talk about more football. But let's cut for tonight. And then let's catch up a week from now.
Do you not want to do
after
a prediction for the Arizona game?
I mean, we can do that real quick. I think that we're going to lose, and I think it's going to be close, though. I think our defense is going to hold them tight. I'm going to go with a 24-21 victory. I think we're actually going to score over 20 points.
Hatters, I'll make you a promise after I give you my prediction, okay? I'm going to say it's 21-20 Arizona, basically because they're at home. And 20 points seems to be right around what the Lions hold teams to, and if they scored 20 points, I might be thrilled at this point. So, Hatters, I promise you that we will do a 2025 mock on the bye week, okay?
Right on.
So here's why. Right now, Hatters is going to go 1 point less than I am. Hatters is in love with the field goals. So he thinks they're going to get 4 field goals.
He's a fan of the Price is Right.
Yeah.
$1.
What? I've always hated that strategy. It's effective, but I hate it. But doing it in week 5 does 2 things, Hatters. Number one, the NFL draft order doesn't even begin to really even take shape until like the 5th or 6th week of the NFL season. And right now we are too early in the college football season to see, like, are there leaders in the Heisman race? Like, who has come out of nowhere? What MAC quarterback is playing really well right now that might shoot himself into the top of the first round? And like, let's just give it a couple more weeks to see if we can get some kind of separation between these 2 different football leagues and to see how they go. But I promise you, I'm already doing 2025 mock drafts for the Lions. But let's do this. Let me ask the chat. Anybody who's still listening that can hear the sound of my voice. Next week, come to us with what you think the 3 biggest, but don't give them to me now, but tell me what you think the 3 biggest needs on this team are based on what you have seen thus far in the 2024 NFL season. So I'm thinking wide receiver, defensive end, and I'm still going to go with interior offensive linemen because I don't know how much longer Graham Glasgow and Kevin Zeitler are for this league. All right, Brian is the eternal optimist. Brian's holding out hopes. I like to see it. I wish I was an optimist. I'm not. So this is the problem when your team does really well and you were like resistant for like 3 years to like believing that they were good. Then you were like, okay, I'll let myself believe, and then you start, okay, they don't look very solid.
Yeah, I'm ready to be hurt again, right?
Yeah,
although,
basically.
If there's any secondary that's going to help us get our passing game on track, it's going to be Arizona. So the question is, are we going to do? I would love that, Zeka. 30-23. I think our defense is going to hold them, right?
Yeah.
As well as Anzalone has played, and I know he's got a concussion. Hopefully he'll be back for the game. Jack Campbell's there and Derek Barnes is there. I think between those 3 guys, I think we can hold Kyler Murray as a mobile quarterback, where in the past we didn't have the depth at that linebacker position. I know it's weird for me to say, because we've always said kind of like, linebacker position, how much, how valuable really is it? But like when it comes to containing those mobile quarterbacks, you need somebody that can both cover and tackle and chase those guys down. And I think we've got 3 dudes out there that can hopefully keep him in check. And while the secondary keeps Marvin Harrison Jr. in check. So I do think that we're going to do really well on defense. Prove it to me, Goff. Prove it to me, Laporta. Like, show me that you're going to be able to put up 3 touchdowns in a game. And then I want to be wrong so bad, right? Like but show me.
Yeah. I'm very interested in what Detroit looks like in Arizona. Like, I want to see.
It's outdoors.
I don't care about that.
I mean, it's on grass. I think they're in a dome, but it's grass, right?
It's Arizona. I mean, like, it's as close to being. It is as close to an indoor stadium as an outdoor stadium can be. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Murray, you're not going to keep Kyler Murray in the pocket. You're not. That's just not happening. So you couldn't get to Matt Stafford fast enough.
Look at a flourish playing a quarterback he's taller than.
Stop it.
I love it.
Baker Mayfield looked like fucking Houdini running around in there. And I know that Hutch had all these sacks or whatever. No one else did anything. But like, Kyler Murray is on a different level athletically than either of those two quarterbacks. Like, you're not containing him. The best thing that you can do is force him into a position where he's just less good at something. So like, I would try and like force him to his left, roll him out and trying to get him and force him to his left and throw him back across the field, across his body or whatever. Like,
yeah.
Don't forget all the MI transplants in Arizona.
Gonna feel like a home game. We do travel well.
That is the thing. Like, I mean, both of these games were at home. If a big Lions contingent shows up in Arizona, I mean, last year there were teams in the NFL, like, their ticket departments were like, please don't sell these tickets to Lions fans.
Yeah, there's too many of them.
There's too many of them. And like, here's the thing, like, and I didn't know this because we've been bad for so long. There's a lot of Lions fans.
Yeah. Sure.
And it doesn't matter where they are. They're all vocal. They all are stand up, look at me, thump my chest proud. You know, and so like, if you get a 10th of that stadium full of Lions fans, I mean, like, they're going to get heard. So
right on.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hopefully we come back to a victory Tuesday. We need to turn this ship around. We need to get our offense going. And we have the secondary to do it, that we're going to go against to do it. So let's go out and put up some big numbers, mostly on the touchdown side. I don't care if he throws, 3 passes for, 3 yards and they're all touchdowns if we win. So, let's just put a W on the board.
Oh yeah. That's the most important stat right there.
Right. All right, guys, we will see you next Tuesday. Drew, it's always a pleasure chatting. We will catch you there. Like, subscribe, and all of that.
So
that is great to hear.
Yeah, it is good to hear. So let's go Lions.
All right, we'll see you guys.